Welcome back to another deep dive.
Ooh.
So today we're tackling a phrase that, for a lot of you listening, probably brings up a very specific image.
Oh, for sure.
If I say all-in wrestling, you're picturing a huge stadium, right?
Yeah.
Fireworks, 80,000 people.
The whole modern spectacle. And that's a fair connection to make, it really is. But, and this is why I just love this stuff, that phrase has a much older, much weirder origin story.
We are not talking about Wembley in 2024. We're going back, way back.
We're going back nearly a century. We're in the 1930s.
The lost world of British wrestling.
Exactly. And all in the 30s, it wasn't a marketing buzzword. It was a legal definition almost, a distinct style of fighting that was, frankly, chaotic.
It sounds like a movie script. I mean, we're going to trace how British wrestling went from this, like, stiff, formal Olympic sport to a total spectacle with mud and weapons.
And then it got banned.
Banned by a judge who literally said this is not a sport. And then, and this is my favorite part, it had to be saved by an admiral.
A literal admiral of the fleet. It's an absolutely wild ride. But to get the chaos, you have to understand what All In actually was.
It was a hybrid, right? Kind of a Frankenstein's monster of wrestling styles.
That's a great way to put it. It took catch as catch can, that really gritty submission-based style from Northern England.
From Lancashire, yeah.
Right. And it injected it with American-style showmanship.
So you take a legit, painful sport and you just sprinkle some glitter on it.
And some gunpowder. But the key thing, the thing that made people nervous, was that it was billed as no holds barred.
Which in the 1930s sounds incredibly dangerous.
Well, yeah, and that danger, whether it was real or, manufactured, is why it took off. But let's back up for a second.
The before times.
Right. Before the 30s, the big style in the UK was Greco-Roman.
The Olympic style. No leg grabs, all upper body.
Correct. Lots of clinching, very technical. But, if you don't know what you're watching, it can be.
Bit boring.
A bit of a stalemate, yeah. Two big guys leaning on each other. And by the time World War I was over, the audience for that had just vanished. So there's this vacuum in British sport.
And entertainment abhors a vacuum.
Precisely. And the spark came from the U.S. The Americans had already figured out that, pure competitive wrestling is a tough sell. So they introduced the work.
The showmanship, the gimmicks, predetermined outcomes.
All of it. And British promoters saw that and thought, we need that energy. But they adapted it. And that's where switching to catch as catch can was so important.
Because catch is a totally different animal from Greco.
Oh, completely. Catch came from the coal miners, the mill workers. You can grab legs, you can twist joints. It's dynamic.
If Greco is a chess match, catch is a fist fight.
Perfect analogy. And for a crowd, it looks so much more impactful. You get big throws, dramatic submissions, so you mix that gritty northern style with American theater.
And you've got a business model.
You do. And the talent was already there. You just had to go to Lancashire and find guys who were tough. And that brings us to the architects of this whole thing.
Sir Athol Oakley. What a name.
Sir Athol Oakley and Henry Erslinger. Now, Oakley was a legitimate amateur wrestler, but he was also a showman. And he insisted his whole life that his all-in promotion was 100% legitimate sport.
Yeah, but he also conveniently won a tournament to become the first British heavyweight champion.
Yeah. Funny how that works out. The promoter always seems to get the belt.
Oldest trick in the book. But hey, it worked.
It worked like crazy. And Oakley understood you needed characters. You needed heroes and villains.
Your roster names from this time are just, they're incredible. You had Black Butcher Johnson.
Very subtle.
And Norman the Butcher. Apparently it was a good time to be a butcher in wrestling.
I guess so.
But my favorite is College Boy.
Just College Boy.
That's it. You could see the whole story. The rough working class butcher versus the educated snob from a good family. It's brilliant.
It's pure archetypal storytelling. And people ate it up. The business just exploded. At its peak, there were over 40 regular venues in London alone.
40. That's a show in every neighborhood every night of the week.
It was a mania. But here's the problem. That creates a huge supply and demand issue.
You run out of butchers and college boys.
You run out of skilled wrestlers, period. You can't fill 40 venues a week with top-tier talent, so the quality of the actual wrestling just plummeted.
And then wrestling gets bad.
You have to distract the audience, you turn up the violence, you turn up the spectacle.
The descent into mayhem begins.
This is where All In really earns its name. They started introducing weapons. Chair shots became a thing.
In the 1930s, I think most people assume that's like a 90s invention.
Nope. It goes way back. And it wasn't just chairs, it was the whole environment. They introduced women wrestlers, which was hugely scandalous.
And the mud.
The mud wrestling.
Why? I mean, just why?
Pure spectacle. Imagine it. Black Butcher Johnson sliding around in a ring full of mud, swinging a chair. It completely removes any pretense of this being a sport. It's a carnival sideshow.
So you've got this image of, stiff upper lip, 1930s Britain, tea and crumpets.
Right.
But on a Friday night, thousands of people are crammed into a smoky hall watching two guys try to drown each other in mud.
It's a total rejection of polite society. But, you can only poke polite society for so long before it bites back.
The authorities finally stepped in.
They did. The backlash from churches, newspapers, local councils, it was huge. But the final nail in the coffin came from the courts.
The 1938 ruling.
Yep. Justice Charles of the King's Bench Division, he presided over a case and just flat out declared that all-in wrestling was, quote, not a sport.
Wow, that's a death sentence.
Legally.
It is, because once it's not a sport, it's just public disorder. The London County Council immediately used that ruling to ban professional wrestling entirely.
So the biggest market in the country, gone. Overnight, gone. And the dominoes fell. Permits were pulled everywhere, even in places like Johannesburg. By the time World War II starts, the whole business is in ruins.
So the war ends, things start to get back to normal. People are looking for entertainment. The promoters must have tried to bring it back.
They tried in 1947, but the stink was still there. The press just jumped on it, saying, oh, it's that fake, violent mud wrestling nonsense again.
They needed a total rebrand.
They needed legitimacy, and this is where the story gets so strange and honestly so British. They formed a committee.
Not just any committee, though.
No, they brought in Admiral Lord Mountevans.
An admiral. To save wrestling.
A respected naval hero, a man of discipline.
We've got a problem with these wrestlers. Get me the admiral.
And look who else was on it. Commander Campbell, a regular on a highbrow radio show called The Brains Trust. A member of Parliament, Maurice Webb. And an Olympic wrestler, Norman Morrell.
An admiral, an MP, and a radio star walk into a wrestling ring.
It sounds like a joke, but it was genius. Wrestling was seen as dirty and low class, so to clean it up, you bring in the most respectable people you can possibly find.
So what did they actually do?
They created the Mountevans rules. And if you've ever seen that classic British wrestling from the 70s and 80s, the world of sports stuff,
Yeah.
you were watching the Mountevans rules in action. The biggest change was rounds.
Like boxing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Before, it was just a chaotic free-for-all. Mountevans introduced a structure, 3-minute rounds, rest periods, public warnings for rule breaking.
Ah, so the first public warning thing comes from this.
It does. It's naval discipline applied to grappling. It gives the referee power and it creates drama. The bad guy can cheat, get a warning, and the crowd gets invested. It turns the chaos into a story.
And most importantly, they killed the name.
They had to. All In was a toxic brand. It meant mud and riots. The committee disowned it. They rebranded the style as modern freestyle.
Sounds very clean, very respectable.
That was the point. They banned the weapons, banned the mud, and enforced these strict sporting rules.
But you can't just kill a word, can you? The public doesn't just forget.
No. And for decades, even though the promoters called it modern freestyle, the press and the public kept calling it All In, but the meaning changed. It became derogatory.
An insult. If you called it All In, you were saying it was fake.
You were saying it was lowbrow. Yeah, you were looking down on it.
And that's where you get that amazing Monty Python sketch.
All In cricket.
It's perfect. You have cricketers, but they're in a ring beating each other up with their bats.
That sketch tells you everything you need to know about what the term all in came to mean in the British psyche. It meant the complete breakdown of rules and fair play.
And it was even reinforced in, high culture. Roland Barthes, the French philosopher, wrote that famous essay on wrestling.
In Mythologies, yeah, a brilliant piece of writing, but he was writing about French wrestling, le catch.
But when it got translated into English,
the translators looked for an equivalent, and they landed on all-in wrestling. So even in academic circles, the term became associated with this predetermined theatrical spectacle.
So to wrap it all up, you go from the boredom of Greco-Roman to the anarchic explosion of All In, the crash, the ban, and then this very formal resurrection by an admiral.
It's the perfect illustration of that eternal tension in wrestling. It's always a war between sport and spectacle.
When they leaned too hard into spectacle in the 30s, the weapons, the mud, the whole thing just collapsed on itself.
But without any spectacle, it's just two guys in singlets and nobody watches. The Mountevans era found the balance. They made the rules part of the show.
Which, and this is a final thought to leave people with, brings us back to where we started, the modern all-in shows.
Right.
I mean, when you look at modern wrestling, what is it? It's spectacle, it's weapons, it's drama, it's pyrotechnics. It is basically everything Sir Athol Oakley was trying to do in 1930, just with a much bigger budget.
That's a really great point. The chaotic, anything-goes style of the 1930s. That's kind of what won in the end. That's what wrestling became all over the world.
So maybe Oakley wasn't just some chaotic promoter. Maybe he was just, I don't know, 60 years ahead of his time.
Or maybe he just needed an admiral to tell him when to take a 5-minute break.
That too. Structure is everything. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll see you next time.